Hey guys, in today's video I wanted to share some stories with you about two different people to kind of help me illustrate what this crazy love looks like. So let's just go ahead and just dive right in. So just recently my family and I were able to take a little break from the farm, and we headed up to Arkansas for a little 6-night vacation, and we stayed at Petit Jean State Park. It was an absolutely beautiful place. I'd highly recommend taking your family there. There's just so much to do there. The park was amazing. But what I found most amazing about the place was the history of the mountain, and that's kind of what inspired today's talk. So Petit Jean got its name from a young French woman in the 1700s. Her name was Adrienne Dumont. She was engaged to a French nobleman named Chauvet. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And he wanted to come explore the New World, and he was granted permission, and then Adrienne wanted to go along with him, so she wanted to go ahead and get married so that she could come with him to the New World. But Chauvet was afraid of the dangers and stuff that went along with the journey, and so he wanted to wait until he returned to do that. So Adrienne disguised herself as a young boy and snuck on as a cabin boy, and just because she wanted to be near her fiance. And so they took the journey across the ocean. They came up the Mississippi and then into the Arkansas River, which Petit Jean Mountain is like, there's a really nice bend in the Arkansas River, and Petit Jean Mountain starts right there. And so she was able to make the journey, and she was able to fool everybody on the ship. Apparently she was a very small framed woman, and that's how she got the name Petit Jean, but Petit Jean is how they pronounced it, which means Little John. And so that's how she got her name. And it's a beautiful story, but it's also a sad story, because at the end of the journey, Petit Jean she became sick, and she had fever and delusions and convulsions, and eventually it led to a coma, and then ultimately her death. But before her death, while the sailors were taking care of her, they discovered that she was in fact a woman, and then in that process, Chauvet was able to realize, hey, that's my fiance. And so they were able to reunite in a little bit in that moment. But Petit Jean said that if she were to die there, she wanted to be buried up on top of the mountain overlooking the river. And sadly, she did pass away. And also in that story too, when the French sailors came on the Arkansas, the Native Americans that were living on the mountain, they came down to greet them and welcomed them, to their home. And so the Native Americans carried her back up on top of the mountain, and they buried her up there where she rests today. And so I got to visit this overlook where she's buried, and they have her gravesite there. And I've read reviews of the state park and stuff, and they just say there's like this, they call it an enchanted feeling, and I don't know how you want to describe the feeling, but there's something there. It's a special place. For me, like it kind of felt like, just the best word I could describe is peace. But it's again, it's so much more than that. It's almost like you're experiencing the emotion of a soul being taken up to heaven and welcomed home. And critics might say that, she was just some young, foolish woman in love and made a hasty decision, and, she just wasn't ready for that journey, and it cost her life. But I don't think that. She knew the risks and the dangers involved with such a journey, but the love that she had for her fiance, just wanting to be near him so much that she was willing to go through anything and at any cost to be with Him. And so that's my first example in this talk right here of what a crazy love is. The second example that I wanted to share with you was actually from a book that my sister-in-law gave me called Tattoos on the Heart, written by Gregory Boyle. He's a Jesuit priest. He lives in Los Angeles, and his ministry is called Homeboy Ministries, where he works and lives among I think pretty much all Latino gangs in the LA area. And Homeboy Ministries is the largest gang intervention, rehabilitation, and reentry program anywhere in the world. And what was amazing about Gregory Boyle is, when I'm reading these stories in the book, he's the kind of person that I want to be. Completely fearless and bold, and he's going into these areas where, any day he could lose his life, but that's where he was called to. And basically he sets up these businesses where it gives these gang members, an alternative solution to trying to make money and to live life. And so he has an incredible staff of volunteers and team members that work with him. And so they do all these different things. And I guess reading the stories, it was kind of amazing because the gang members that are there, one, he has respect among, I think there's 80 different rival gangs in the area. So there's a lot of violence that goes on between the rival gangs. But he's earned the respect of pretty much all of them. And what's so amazing is that he takes in, it doesn't matter what gang you're from, he welcomes them all. And so they end up working together and coexisting a little, on some level more than what they were. Whereas on the street, these guys are, wanting to kill each other, and so now they have different printing shops and I think a bakery, and there's probably some other businesses that they've created. And so you have these rival gang members that are working. But what's amazing is that it doesn't matter, he welcomes them all with open arms and love. To me, just like the father of the prodigal son, he's there waiting for these gang members to choose love, to choose life, to choose a different way than the destructive path that they're on. And so it's neat just to see his amount of love that he's able to pour into them despite or regardless of their actions and their choices or what they've done or what they end up doing in the future. And that they may come into the program and then they lapse and they fall into their old patterns of crime or drug use or drug selling. But then some of them come back, and there's no condemnation or judgment from him. He's there always with open arms welcoming him. So again, to me, it's an amazing story to read about him and the things that he's accomplished, or the things that God's accomplished through him, I guess, in this area. But seeing him live out, such a great example. I don't want to say it's a perfect example, but it's a really great example of the love that God has for us. So to me, that was the second example of a crazy love. So I picked these two examples because to me, the love that Pettit Jean had for her fiance of just wanting to be near him, that represents the love that we should have for Christ. And then the love that is represented through Father Boyle, to me, standing there unconditionally loving and waiting and hoping and praying that we return to him, that represents the love of the Father. And so it's this, to me, this crazy love is it's like a two-part reciprocal love that just, it never ends. It goes from Father to Son to the Holy Spirit, and it just goes around and around and around without ever slowing down, without ever ending. And for us, we think we have all this control and this power in this world, but most of it doesn't make any difference. The only difference that really we can make is choosing Christ, is choosing to love. And when we choose Christ, we're incorporated into His body. We're incorporated into this never-ending circle and flow of love between Him and the Father and the Holy Spirit. And so that's the greatest choice that we can ever make in our lives. I mean, Jesus said in John 13:34 that, we're to love one another as He has loved us, and that's what we're called to do, is just simply love. And this love that we're called to give, it's meant to be completely unconditional. It doesn't even matter if it gets reciprocated back to us or not. That's not the point. It's that we choose love. And the last thing I really want to end here with is one of my favorite quotes from the author Norman Maclean, who wrote A River Runs Through It, which they made a movie about, I believe, in the 90s. I think it stars Brad Pitt. But it's a nice movie. But at the end of the movie, in the credits and all, there's a quote from the author that pops up. And when I read it, it's just one of those things that just really stuck with me. And it says, or the author says, "We can love completely without complete understanding." Real love isn't given based on the actions of others. It starts within each one of us, and it's meant to be completely unconditional. So I want to encourage you today to be bold and be selfless and love like crazy. We'll see you next time.